Hello, welcome back to Bald and Board Games. I'm Bald, and I'm going to give you a rulebook rundown of a lot. So we're going to be doing Aspens, as well as the expansions, Deciduous Duos, Wild Weather, Ancient Artifacts, and the Majestic Marvels. We're going to start with Aspens, the base game. Then we will go through the smaller expansions, probably Majestic Marvels first, Artifacts, Wild Weather, and then we'll finish with the Deciduous Duos. We'll have chapters for these as well, so you can jump ahead to whichever section you prefer. All right, so let's get right down to it. So, get all these out of the way for now, that we're not doing quite yet. And boom. And we'll have you off to the side over there. Okay. So, have all of our stuff, all of our things. Just push it up here for a moment. Rulebook, perfect. So, starting off, the Aspens overview. Let's go in a little bit closer for you. Why not? Get this really out of the way here. Boom, so you can see what I'm seeing. Okay. Aspens, the cozy tiny forest game. Harness the elements of wind and sun and carefully manage your resources in an ever-changing landscape as you work to grow the largest, most stunning forest. In order to emerge victorious, you'll need to carefully balance reinvesting in your forests, growing them upward to capture more sunlight and gain more trees with the ever-increasing pressure to expand outward and compete for territory. Components list. Goal of the game. Your goal is simple: to grow the largest forest. You claim spaces by planting trees of your type on them, and the player who has claimed the most spaces at the end of the game wins. All right, so then it goes over the board tiles as well that we have here, which are in the box. So take all this out here. This is one set of trees in here, as well as the dice. Let me get the dice out. Those are the dice. And then these are, so here it depicts the basic trees. This is the mega box, so has the upgraded, more fancier trees you can see here for the greens instead of just triangles. So we'll put those off to the side for now. We'll need those in a moment. Then we have the other colors. So these ones that are squares here. Instead, again, upgraded shapes to actual tree size. Ooh, dropping some. Tree sizes, as you can see there. Okay, put those to the side as well. With the dice. Okay, for setup. Each player picks a tree type. Okay, one of the two I just showed you. Aspen or pine. So, aspen, pine. And takes the corresponding bag of pieces. Yep, over there. Put the board together using the 7 board tiles and place it between you. All right, so between us. So what I'm going to zoom out now so we can see what's going on. So we'll put aspens over here. Boom. Pines right here. Boom. And I'm moving this out of the way so I can build the board. So in here we have the board. Has some water pieces. We'll put off to the side for now. Let's take all of this out. A coin, I assume, is heads or tails, some sort, or aspen or pine. Look at that. So we'll put that to the side as well. The box, we obviously don't need it at the moment. Okay, so it gives us a diagram right here on how to put together, as well as this right there. So that's what I'm going to be referencing right now as I put this together. So obviously the sundial is in the middle. Then, northwest. You go here, let's see how well these fit together. Oh, those fit together really well. A lot of games when they do this kind of slotting in situation, they just don't end up fitting well together. I went over this in the rulebook, or sorry, in the unboxing. I think the reason why it does is because of the way they do the hexagons here. They have a little space between them, which looks graphically really nice, but also it allows for them to cut right down the middle of each of these. So that's pretty much what they did here, so that always fits perfectly in, just like that. That's wonderful. Let's push that up a little bit. Put the bottom piece on. Boom, boom, boom. Just as nice. Good. All right, so then for the middle section, we have these interesting guys right here. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, so a little shifty there, a little bit. I wonder if it probably fits better on the other side, honestly. I mean, it can go on either side, but I wonder if it just naturally fits better on this side, if it was like cut to be specifically a little bit, about the same. Either way, it still locks in together way better than most games that try to do this sort of thing. Okay, you're left with the final two. East, yep. And west. So we have our cardinal directions. So north and south is not depicted on here, which south would be here, north would be there. Instead, they just went with the northwest, northeast, southwest, southeast, east, and west. So I'm sure there is a reason. But what's nice is this actually fits right in our logo. Our zoom in, of course, is a little slightly too close to really show you, but you can see there, just edge here. So it doesn't take up too much space on the table. I was worried about that being the case. Okay, so we lock those together like so. All right, so put the board together, boom. Easy way for you to start, center tile, then northeast, that's pretty much what I did. Place the 3 water tiles on empty spaces as shown below. So we have 4, but it's gonna have us use 3, it says. So that is going in the middle of E, W, and then right down here at the bottom. So that is right here. Yep. And we got 1, 2, 3 right here, and 1, 2, 3 right there. Those are the water tiles. Okay. Now, it says there are variable starting water tile setups provided on page 13, but for your first few games, you suggest this one. So these can move around, hence why there's 4, maybe more, less, different positions. This is kind of the basic initial setup for you all. Randomly choose the first player. Perfect. Coin. You guys call it. I'm just kidding. All right, Pine is going to be first player. That's these guys here. Okay. It says, important note, the different colors and sizes of aspens and pine tree pieces are just for visual purposes and do not represent any gameplay or scoring difference. Okay, so in the unboxing, I thought there was going to be like your trees were growing over time. Apparently, it doesn't matter. The different sizes, which I will show you if you didn't watch the unboxing, just happen to grab all the same size. That's cool. Don't worry about that. My goodness. There we go. So you can see there are there's 3 different sizes here. So I thought that like you plant this first and it grows, and when it's this tall, it can spread. It says not the case. It's just for fun and variety, which I think is magnificent. Just having it for fun and variety is perfect. Let's get that in there. Cool. Okay. On to the next. How to get started. So here we go. So again, very simple rule book. All right, so each player takes 3 trees from their bag. Starting with the first player, take turns each placing 1 tree on an empty space adjacent to one of the 3 water tiles. Do this until you have each taken 3 turns and placed all 3 of your trees, 1 tree next to each water tile. A single player cannot place more than 1 tree next to the same water tile. So, you take out 3 trees, so 1, 2, 3, and then you take turns placing 1 tree until you each have placed all 3. Okay, there's 3 water tiles. It says you cannot place your trees, more than 1 tree next to each water tile, which means you have to choose a space around there each. So pine was going first. Let's say pine will go there. Aspen will go here. Pine will go here. Aspen's going to go on the back side for the hell of it. Why not? Pine will go there. Aspen will go here. Okay, it does give you a strategy tip as well on here. It says you will spread outward from the initial forest, capturing as much territory as you can and trying to control the most spaces by the end of the game. It is best to place your trees on the spaces closer to the center of the board rather than spaces toward the edge of the board. Okay, so what Aspen did here, and let's see, can I go, are they still in frame? They are, so we'll go to this until we need to. What's it cutting off? Oh, it's like cutting off the bottom 4 and the top 4. So here it's saying this is a bad idea because you're spreading outward. So it's better to go this way because you want to spread inward. So we'll leave it as is. First-time players will make first-time mistakes. While talking, my coffee. Got a lot of rule books to go through right now. Okay. Growing your starting forest is the next phase. Each player takes 4 trees. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to do it simultaneously for everything for you guys. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, 4 trees. Starting with the first player, each player takes a single turn to distribute all 4 of their trees among their 3 existing spaces that they seeded in the previous step. You cannot place on an empty space in this stage. You must place them on your existing 3 spaces. You can place all 4 trees on one space or spread them across multiple of your starting spaces, however you choose. Okay, so then it gives a summary. After the first 2 steps, both players should have 3 spaces that they control, like now, each adjacent to a water tile, like right now, with a total of 7 trees among them. Okay, so what it's saying is you have your 4 trees. The first player will place all 4 of theirs first, and you will be placing them in spaces with other trees. You cannot put them, you can't do this. They have to go in spaces with other trees. So I'm going to do 3 in that one, 2, and I'll do 2 there. So now I have a total of 7 trees next to a water tile in 3 spaces only. So then each player will do this. Boom. I think this one's going to get 2. I want that one to really push out, and I still want this one to do some work. So we'll go there. We'll really spread that out. Actually, you know what? We're going to leave that one alone. Let's see if yellow is going to go 3 and 3. Let's just see. Let's get heavy this way. Okay. Gives you a strategy tip as well. The more trees you have in a single space, the more likely it is to gain a tree based on the roll of the sun die. But the more spaces that gain trees, the more trees you get. So cluster more trees on fewer spaces for a slow and steady strategy, or spread them out for a riskier boom or bust style. So what it's saying is, by having more trees on one space, it's more likely that those spaces will spread, but you have fewer spaces spreading when you do that. Okay? Next, we're taking a turn. So we have to roll for sun and for wind. So we have those 2 dice. At the start of your turn, roll both the sun dice and the wind dice. The sun die determines which of your spaces will produce new trees in step 2. The wind die determines which direction you can place new trees in step 3B. Okay. So let's roll. Like it says, so roll the dice. So we have west, and we have, is that supposed to be 6? So we have 2, there's no 1, so yeah, that's supposed to be a 6. So it starts in 2, it goes 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 on that 6-sided die. So number 2, gain trees. Count the number of your tree spaces that have at least the number of trees as the value of the sun die. None of them. Take this many trees. We do not. Then current player. The current player always takes an extra tree as a bonus because it is their turn. Anytime you gain trees, take them from your bag into your hand. Note, only the current player will plant their trees in step 3. The other players keep their trees to plant when it is their turn. Okay, so the current player always takes an extra tree as a bonus because it's their turn. So if I have 0, do I take an extra tree? Is that what that means? I assume. Because right now it's saying count the number of your spaces that have at least the number of trees that as the sun value die, which is 6. So none of them have 6. So if this was 3, I would have 2 spaces at 3. So I would take 2 trees. So +1, +1. And current player always takes an extra tree as a bonus because it's their turn. So as an example here. So the Aspens player rolls a 3 for sun and gets 4 trees in total. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4. Oh, 1 tree Each earns the player 1 tree to take into their hand. They also get the 1 bonus tree at the beginning of the turn. Okay, yeah. So the 1 bonus. So it looks like you're always taking the bonus tree. So I have 1. So you're always going to take 1 in your hand to start. And then if you have this roll, so like right now, for Pine, I would have just this one with 3. So I would take a second one for that. If this was a 2, I have the 1 I start with on my turn, and then I would have 1, 2, 3 trees I'd be taking to my hand. But we rolled a 6 on our roll, so I only have the 1 bonus tree. Shitty. Okay, now you plant your new trees. When placing new trees, how and where you plant each tree is an independent choice. For every tree, you have 2 options. Option A, grow up. Place a tree on any space you already own, adding it to your existing trees. So, like I could put it right there, or over here, or over there, in any space where you already have a bunch of trees clustered. This will increase your odds of gaining new trees from that space in the future. You can do this on any space you own. The wind does not relate to this option. Okay? So then it says strategy tip. It says see the chart below for the odds. So it gives you in the rule book the actual odds of what you're getting. So for 2 trees, you have a 16%, 3 is 33, 4 is 50, 5 is 66, 6 is 83, 7 is 100% chance that you'll plant a tree based on what can be rolled on the die. Great. That's fun. So that's option A, is placing it in one of the spots. I only have 1 tree, so I think the pine guy is going to be risky. He's going to go for it. Place a tree on any valid, this is option B, grow out. Place a tree on any valid empty space using the wind. For a space to be valid, it must be adjacent to a space you already own, and a valid wind direction from a space you control based on the wind die, so west. Lost my place, there it is. This means you will always have 3 valid wind directions on your turn. Oh, interesting. What? Oh, cool. So the west, you can go in any direction that mentions west. So this way, that way, or this way. Southeast would mean that you could go southeast, east. Interesting. Southeast, I don't know. Is it 4? We'll see. It continues to go over in a sec here. When you plant a tree on an empty space, you immediately control that space and can now plant adjacent to it. Clarification, you may plant in multiple wind directions and from multiple different spaces on a single turn. Water tiles are not considered empty spaces. You can never plant a tree on a water tile. Okay, so, oops, I killed my trays. Trying to show you the example, which actually is probably better if I just do this. There we are. Let's do that. There we go. So here's the example here for the wind direction. So if the wind was E, this is the starting spot. You can go northeast, you can go east, and you can go southeast. So he literally went around. Okay? This example here, the wind direction is east. You can go northeast, east, southeast. You just can't go the other way. Okay? Here, the wind direction is northeast. So for this person, they went northeast, northwest, northwest. So because there's an N there. For this person, they went northeast, northeast, and east. So it looks like it's literally just the letters. So whatever you roll, so if it's northeast, anything that has north or east in it is a direction that you can go with your trees. It looks like you can plant them in like a curving line if you so choose. That's cool. All right, so I have the 1 tree. We'll go back to the board here. This one guy, we rolled west, which means I can go any westward direction. So I'm going to go right here. Do that. Okay. 4, check for and resolve cascades. When you close off an area of the board, making it impossible for another player to reach, this is called a cascade. Water tiles, because they are permanently unplayable spaces, can also be used as part of the boundary to close off an area. When this happens, you immediately claim all the surrounding spaces for free. Do this by taking trees from your supply and putting 1 tree on each space, in the surrounded area to fill it up. Oh, that's cool. Okay, so let's illustrate this for you guys. I'm going to go to the east side over here, and I'll show you what that means. So, if I happened to say I had this closed off here, and we'll just say I happened to work my way around this way because they were focusing up here, and I did that, right? So this is all closed off. There's no way for the aspen to get in here. When that happens, you immediately place one tree on every space inside here. You just locked it down. So that's a fun strategy to try and do. While someone's trying to move into the center, you could just be focusing on locking off the edges to get all those free spaces just like that. That's cool. I like that a lot. Look at this aspen player sucks. Pine player's kicking ass. So in summary, on your turn, you will always do these 4 actions in this order. After your turn, pass the dice to your opponent, alternating turns until the game ends. So, what that is, step 1 on your turn, roll the dice. Gain trees based on the sun number here on the sun dice, 6, which is based on if you have that many trees in your individual spots. You always start with a bonus 1. If you meet this in one of your spaces, you'll get extra. So let's change this 6 to a 3. So I have my bonus. I have 1 and 2 spaces with 3 trees, which means I get 2 more for a total of 3 trees. Then you will place your trees out according to the direction die, the wind die. Northwest means I can place them in any direction that contains north or west. So, and you have to go out from your trees, or you can place trees in the same spots to try and make them larger. So, I'm going to add 1 tree to my guy down here, which is not subject to the wind direction. For the northwest direction, I'm going to go here, and I'm going to go here. Now remember, you do not have to place off a tree. So you could put this tree here, and I could put this tree here. I could put this one there, and then I could turn it and go this way. Or I could put it over here on this side. They do not have to go adjacent to a tree you just placed. The rule is your tree has to go adjacent to any tree you have placed previously in the game and in the direction of the wind. So same with there. Then you will check for cascades, which again is when you close off a section and no one can get to it, and you fill in that whole section. So we'll give Aspen a cascade here just to, again, illustrate this example. We'll go, you know, we're going to do this. This person actually neglected their tree, and I managed to get all the way around them. And so with that, there's a cascade. They're in here, but they can't go anywhere. They're locked in. So now I'm cascading. Obviously that would have happened over multiple turns. Probably very unlikely that that would end up being the case there. But to illustrate an extreme example, cascading. Boom. Cascaded. And then that's it. Pass the die, next person goes. Rinse and repeat until the game end. So important reminders. Only the current player places their trees in step 3. The other players hold their trees to plant on their turn. You can never place a tree on a space that another player already controls. Each tree is an individual choice. You can plant them all in different ways and in different areas on a single turn as long as each move is valid. And then you've got a strategy tip. So for the most players, we strongly recommend you place all of your trees each turn. But as you learn and master the game, there may be rare occasions when there is strategic value to hold onto some or all your trees for a future turn. You do not have to place all your trees on your turn. You can instead choose to hold up to 5 trees for future turn. Cool. So what they're saying is, if I had multiple spaces where I ended up with, let's get a big hand here of trees. There we go. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I ended up with 7 trees late in the game. I have to use 2 of them, but I can hold on to 5 trees in my hand to use at a later turn. Where you do not have to place every single tree out on the board. You can hold up to 5 for future turn, which may be strategic if you're trying to lock down a section without them knowing. It's like what I did here. If I want to lock this person in, I may hold on to the trees, so that way in one turn I can do the full swoop and lock them in, and then they would be screwed. They could not get through there. Very cool. All right. So then it just goes through some example turns, which is what we've been doing. And it'll give us summary of play and some variable setup. So we'll do the summary of play real quick again for you. So taking your turn. Roll the wind and sun dice. Both players gain trees based on the wind and sun dice. The current player gets 1 bonus tree for their turn. Both players get 1 tree for each space that they own that has at least the number of trees on it as the sun value. Plant your trees, only the current player. So grow up on spaces you own to increase your odds of gaining a tree from the space in the future, or grow out using the 3 valid directions based on the wind die to expand your territory. Resolve any cascades. But if you have a northeast, north, 1, 2, east, can you not go southeast? So is it just what's adjacent to your die? Northeast, northwest, east. Okay, so that's clarification for you. So this die is the middle. So like when you roll northwest, that is the middle. So then you can go to any of the adjacent ones. So northwest means that direction, west, or northeast. West would mean west, northwest, or southwest. East would mean east, northeast, southeast. Southwest would mean southwest, southeast, west. So it's only ever 3 directions. The middle one is the one you roll, and the 2 on the sides. Thank God for clarification. Okay, then resolve any cascades. If you close off an area on the board, making it possible for another player to reach, you create a cascade. Immediately place trees in the surrounding areas. Then you would rinse and repeat. So it looks like on every turn, players are gaining trees. So if Pine is the current player, Pine rolls, okay, 3 in southeast, right? So everyone would get trees based on the 3. So Pine gets the 1 tree because it's their turn, and 2 because of this. Aspen would get 1, 2, 3. They don't get the bonus tree because it's not their turn. So they just have the 3 and they're waiting. Pine gets to place their trees based on directionalities. Okay. Aspen does not. Once placed, now it's Aspen's turn. Aspen will now roll southeast and the 6. So Aspen gets a bonus tree because it's their turn. And then if they had a 6, they would get more. Green does not get any trees because they don't have 6 and it's not their turn. Now Aspen has 4 trees to plant. The 3 from the Pine turn and the 1 bonus one they just got on their turn. So now they can start putting them into spots. And rinse and repeat. Okay, that makes sense. So finishing and scoring. So the game is over when there are no remaining empty spaces on the board. All playable spaces have been taken by a player. Count up how many spaces each player owns. The easiest way to do this is for each player to remove any additional trees from your spaces so that each of your space only has 1 tree on it. Then count the number of your trees on the board. The player with the most spaces wins. In an extremely rare case of a tie, either share the victory or play again to determine the real winner. If you want to be sure that you're counting correct, there are 148 playable pieces on the board in a standard game, so both players' scores combined should add up to 148. In a game with 4 starting water tiles, there are 147. So that's cool. Nice little easy math. So that has some helpful reminders. The winner is the player with the most spaces in the end. Closing off areas means you create a cascade and immediately get to take control of that area, placing 1 tree in each space from the supply. You can place trees adjacent to ones that you just placed on the same turn, planting in a chain effect. You can never place a tree on a space occupied by another player. There is no capture or clear mechanic in the game. Once the space is taken, that player will always own that space. There's a note about running out of trees. A player running out of trees is not an intended part of the game and should be very, very rare. If this happens, either use a suitable replacement from your home or take trees from the inside of areas that you have already surrounded and use these. Make sure to keep those areas clearly identified and marked as yours for the end of the game. So what that's saying is if you run out of trees, like if Pine did, you know this is closed off, you can just take trees from in here to use. Because it's closed off, you know that those are your points at the end of the game. So you can just remember, and that will allow you to put out your trees as you're playing. Easy peasy. All right, so then it gives you some variable setups here, which is nice. So it is doing this here. So once you've mastered the base game, here's some different starting setups to refresh the game and other new challenges. Choose one together or roll the sun die and play the setup that matches the number. Fun. You roll 2, being a standard setup. Some setups will have you start with different numbers of forests. Setup 3 and 4 have you start with 3 initial forests, like the base game rules. Setup 5, 6, 7 have you start with 4. Note that all the base rules for seeding and growing your initial forest outlined in the front of this rulebook apply. So the rules are all the same. The setup is just different. So here you have the 3 different water spaces, but still 3 trees. Here the water space is different, still 3. 5, 6, 7 give you 4 trees because there's 4 water spaces. Oh, there's actually only 3 and 7. Interesting. So how does that one work? Oh, you have to hold on to a tree. You must. Because you can't place more than 1 tree around the same watering hole. So in 7, you must be holding on to 1 tree at the beginning. It says 4 initial forests. I thought you couldn't place water tiles. Starting player takes turn placing 1 tree in an empty space adjacent to 1 of 3 water tiles. Do this until each is taken 3 turns. Place all 3 of your trees next to each water tile. Single player cannot place more than 1 tree next to the same water tile. Yeah, so I guess 7, because it only has 3 water tiles, you must just have 1 tree left over ready to go right from the beginning of the game. Cool. All right. So that was the bottom of the box. The base game of Aspens. So now we're going to jump into the expansions here. So first what I'm going to do is I'm going to clear off the board here. That way it is clean and ready to go for us for those expansions. So let's get all this cleaned up. We'll go back down. It'll be much more interesting for you to watch me do this than to stare at me while I do it. Very simple game. Is absolutely a game where we'd be playing this and then Fire Tower back to back to burn down the forest that we built. Bad in real life, but the theme in this just is very funny. So, especially because you're kind of starting off on opposing ends and you're trying to burn down each other's fire tower. It's just, I don't know, it's a fun thing. Okay, so we're going to work our way up For the simple expansions to the more complex. So first up, we have Majestic Marvels. So now this should make sense to us. Okay. So Majestic Marvels, we have these cards. No idea what those mean because there's no cards in the base game. Then we have these shapes on here. And those correspond to the board. Okay. All right, overview. Majestic Marvels changes how the game is scored and will have you competing for control of multiple areas of the forest. Aha, I get it. Instead of just the overall board, thus forcing you to modify your strategy and learn new tactics. Other than the modifications to the scoring specifically covered in these rules, all other base game rules apply and remain unchanged. So planting and everything we just went over. While playing this expansion, the game is effectively played the exact same way, just with different scoring. Okay, that's easy enough. So, just double-sided? Nope. So, scoring and objective. Unlike the base game, where players compete to control the majority of the entire forest by the end of the game, in Majestic Marvels, you will compete to capture the different segments of the board and the stunning marvels contained within them. Earning Majesty, each marvel is worth a different amount of Majesty, shown in the top left of its card. Has to be that, I assume. The player with the most Majesty points at the end of the game wins. Yep, so it shows you there. 5/5 Majesty points. Okay. Setup. Set up the game board in water tiles following the steps shown in the base game of the rulebook, but flip 3 of the board tiles to the night side to make distinguishing sections easier. Then, before you seed and grow your initial forest, shuffle all 9 of the marble cards and randomly deal 1 to each of the outer sections of the game board, along with the aid card matching that section. Reference the visual on page 4 for a helpful example. It says page 4, but it's a card, which is hilarious. Okay, so we'll go through and we'll do this right now. Boop, 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 boop. So it does have that example, as you can see here. So we're flipping the 3 that are not the complete outer. So and the middle one. All right. Oh, those definitely feel a little more snug than normal, huh? Come on, buddy. Oof, I don't like that. There we go. Scared me for a sec. All right. So that's what it means by flipping the 3 tiles to be more distinguished than the night side. So night side, because these are the areas you're vying for control for. So now it says, oh, let's take the middle ones also. To randomly shuffle, so you distinguish. Then before you seed, grow forest, shuffle the 9 marble cards. I'm doing it. And deal 1 to each of the outer 6 outer sections. Outer meaning anything that touches the outside. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So not the middle one. So we have west. Go that guy. Southwest. Say east here. And that guy. So obviously we probably normally would put this down here. to make it easier, but so that way you can see I'm putting it over here. So we'll flip those. Actually, I can put them right on them. That way you can see. So normally they're going to go on the outside of the board typically. Right now I'm putting these the way I dealt them on the board as they do in the illustration on the card. So you understand what corresponding sections they go to. Okay. Setup 2. For each reference card, you can tuck a Marvel card and corresponding aid card under the segment of the board. Okay. So it's showing you. So what that's having us do, so northwest, northeast. So for this, it's saying to do this sort of a thing and to just tuck them under their part of the board. So that way they're still showing. So you can see here, boom. And we'll do the rest here. So west is over here. And so we'll just tuck you under here like that. Bang. We've got east next. East over here. So we'll get you. Tuck into the board there. Boom. Southwest. Southeast. You're right here. Doo-wop. You are this. So we got you. I'm going to put you up here. Obviously, you'll do this in whatever way is most clear for you and the players playing. There we go. Boom. Just like that. Cool. Done. Setup 3. Once you've dealt one random marble card to each of the 6 outer board segments, the center segment does not get one, which is the sundial area. Resume setup according to the base game rules by seeding and growing your initial forest. After you complete those remaining setup steps, you are ready to play. There is also some handy aids for each player here, which is telling you how many spaces are in each section. I do believe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Nope. Has what? West says 10. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There's 11 spaces there, sir. Oh, but you need 10. So you need 6 to win. It says 10 total. There's 11 spaces here. Oh, never mind. Because this is showing you with the water. So it's using the base setup. I think water might always start in those spots. Could be wrong. Southwest. Doesn't make sense. Boom. There we go. So that's what I was saying here. So 28. So it's telling you how many hexagons are in each section. So you need the majority to be able to take it. So here, because there's water, there's 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So on the card, it says you need 6 of those to win that card. Which part I'm going to explain now. Capturing areas. The first player who controls the majority of the spaces in the segment of the board captures that area, earning its marble and the associated Majesty points. When the captured area, immediately take the marble card. So if we had this, we immediately would take that. So we'll just assume, we'll put this down here. We'll get 2 yellers there. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And obviously I would end up having that one. But once I have that, I would take this over to the pine section. Now pine has it. Okay. Different marbles are worth different amounts of points as shown in the upper left of the card. So pay attention to which ones you prioritize. So again, that is this here. Capturing areas 2. The aid card shows you a total number of spaces in a segment of the card that you need to capture the area. That's what we're talking about. So 6 here to win. Capture area example. So it just gives the same example I gave here. finishing and scoring. The game ends once all 6 board segments and their marbles have been captured. So a little bit different in the main game. The main game ends when the entire board is filled with trees. Here, once every card is captured, that is when the game will end. So each player counts up their combined Majesty points from all their marble cards, and the player with the most points wins. In the case of a tie, the player who controls the majority of this center segment of the board, the one with no marble card, ends up winning. So if there's a tie, whoever has more in this center area specifically will end up being the winner. So that gives you a different way of, playing the game and winning the game, honestly. So instead of doing, it sounds like it would almost be quicker because you're not trying to fill up the whole board with trees. You're trying to just take over the 6 segments. So it's almost going to be filled with trees, but not entirely. Cool. All right, so that was the Majestic Marbles, little mini expansion that we have here. Honestly, I'm probably going to keep, since the glue gave out on this and this didn't get dinged up at all, I am going to keep the cards in this little pouch. I think that is very, very handy. So let's get these on. Boom. This time I'm going to make you watch me clean up. This one's much faster. So I like that. I always love a good, easy expansion that gives you a different way to play. Changes it up. Obviously, if you're using one of the various board sets at the beginning, the number of tiles needed for each of the sections won't exactly be what they say on these cards where it said 10, it's always going to be the majority. So just make sure that you know. I think the outer ones might always be the same. The others probably will vary. It's always based on, again, how many available spaces there are. You need a majority to take that area. So put those right back in. Boom. Majestic Marbles. Okay. Ooh, puppies are in here. Hi, puppies. Next up, ancient artifacts. Another quick one, it seems. I wonder if they can pair. Not compare, but can pair. Okay. Little rule book. Tokens. All of our cards. Okay. There we go. In the Ancient Artifacts expansion, players compete to collect lost relics that are randomized on the board at the start of the game. Each relic has a spirit of a distinct ancient god and its unique power locked within. When you collect a relic, you gain unique single-use ability that you can use on a future turn to gain a strategic advantage. With relics you pursue, along with when and how you use them, will shape your strategy and determine if you are victorious or not. So scoring an objective, the objective of the game are the same as the base game. All base game rules apply, unchanged, unless specifically overridden or modified by one of the abilities in this expansion. So for the setup, you're going to set up the game board and water tiles following the base game rules. Then, before seeding your initial forest, so specifically before seeding, complete the expansion setup as shown in the following pages. So let's move this up out of the way. This is, I'm going to flip these night tiles back. If I can get them off. You can tell that they were punched in one specific way because they're a little tougher to get undone when they're on the night, when they're not all one-sided, aka all night or all day. But that's fine. It's not too tough. Oop, easy, come on. Buddy. Go. Is it? Come on. There's a bunch very precisely, so if you're not putting them down exactly as, then they kind of fight with you. There's that. There's this, this, and that right there were the initial areas. Cool. Okay. So, that is done there. So now before we place things down, we go through our setup. So set up the relics and spirits. All 16 relic discs in the bag. Randomly pull out 6 discs, one at a time, and place them on the spaces shown. Example. What are the spaces shown? Boom, boom. Are they always the same? Okay. So this is specifically used with the very, very base setup, like it said. So these will always go into the same specific spaces. So one at a time, we'll go here first. Essentially, it's going the top of west, top of east, right on the outside of the sundial on east and west here. And then you're going right here at the edge of this long section with 3 between them. So boom, boom. So kind of directly up from those. So first up, we'll do west. Got blue guy. Next, let's do east. Make sure it's good and mixed up in there. Well, apparently it was not mixed up. Let's go west again. And we'll go east again. And we'll go the west spot up top by northwest. And we'll go with the last final spot by northeast. All right, relatively good mix, only 2 that are the same. Cool. Okay. Now for each of the 6 relic discs placed, take the corresponding ancient spirit card and place it near the board, in reach of both players. If Drought and Stone is in play, place the 2 drought marker tiles with it. Okay, there's 2 copies of every card because there's 2 tiles for each. So we'll take out 1 for each tile we have out there. Boom. One of those. One of those. And we have 2 of those. All right. So for here, we have wind. For here, we have the other wind. Up there, we have new growth. Here, we have the sun, traveling roots, drought and stone. And because we have drought and stone, we need their 2 stone. Place 2 drought tiles, and then you have 2 spaces. Okay? So those will just be near the board somewhere. I'm just going to put them off to the side where anyone can get them if they get the tiles. Boom. Okay. I said it's normal and expected to have 2 copies of some of the same spirits or relics appear in the single game. Like we do, we have 2 of the wind. So spirit cards themselves contain high-level descriptions of the powers that would be enough to get you playing. The rules in the following pages outlining each power are just for clarification when needed. Okay, so we'll look at the cards here in a moment. So we'll go on to seed and grow your initial forest. Now that the relic discs and spirit cards have been placed, resume the setup, shown in the base game rulebook by seeding and growing your initial forests. Once that is done, the setup is complete and you are ready to start the game. The board should look exactly the same as a normal game setup, with just with one addition of the 6 relic discs and nearby spirit cards. Okay, so how do you earn a relic disc and get their power? The first player to place 4 of their trees adjacent to a relic disc immediately takes that disc as well as the corresponding spirit card into their play area, earning the power. Collecting a relic grants you the power of that spirit to use on any future turn, which is explained in the upcoming pages. Cool. That's giving some examples here. Okay, collecting. Cascades. Nice. All right, so it's giving examples like what it is. So they have to just get 4 trees next to a relic. So that could be 4 spaces, like this. That could be any combination of spaces. So you have 2 and 2, it's still 4. Here, that counts. That would count. This would count. That would count. So So as long as you have 4 trees, not 4 spaces filled, but 4 trees adjacent to the relic, first, you would take it. You cannot place trees onto spaces that have relics. Cannot. Okay? So spaces with relic discs on them are not playable until after the disc is claimed and the space is made empty. This means you can never place a tree on top of a space with a relic on it. Collecting relics with cascades. If a player creates a cascade, the result, them having 4 trees adjacent to the disc, the player instantly earns that relic. So if you were to cut off this section, so we'll illustrate that for you. So if I manage to cut off this section here and did this, technically there's not 4 trees next to that, but because nobody else can get it, I automatically get it. And then that would obviously fill in with the tree as well. Okay. But spaces with relic discs are not considered boundaries and cannot be used to create cascades. So you cannot, I'll give you an example here. This is not a cascade. This does not count as a boundary like the water tiles do. You would need to fill out around it. Now it's a cascade. And now you'd put your other trees out, obviously. And of course, once you did this, you would have collected this at that point in time. And one would end up going down there too. Okay. So playing a power. All powers are one-time use. To activate a power, discard the corresponding disc and card. So discard it. Then carry out the power's effect. You may only use powers on your turn. You cannot use a power on the same turn that you collected it. All powers may be played at any time on your turn. That means before or after the sun/wind rolls, and before or after placing any number of trees. As long as it's still your turn, you have not passed the dice. That's what designates your turn. You haven't passed the dice yet. You may use a power if it still applies. You may use multiple powers on a single turn. Using a power does not count as your turn. You can still carry out all the steps of your turn as you normally would. Okay. Then it goes over in the rulebook here, explanations of all of the powers. I'll read the cards right now. If you need explanations, you can refer obviously to the rulebook for that. But let's read the actual cards and what they do. Just so you know as well, it does come with 2 very handy player aids for getting started and gameplay. And on the back, it also has the powers listed for each of the tokens as well. But I'm going to read them off the cards because that's more fun. Who don't we have here? Don't have you. We don't have you. Now you. All right. So, first up we have the Wither. You will remove all opposing trees from any single space of your choice. That's crazy. So if your opponent had just maxed out a space with 7 trees, you're like, Wither, kill them all. Okay? You have the Fertile Breeze. In the rulebook rundown, I refer to this as the Fertilizer Breeze. Yep. Plant a single tree, any number of spaces away in a single valid wind direction. That's cool. So if we had, say, 2 trees here, or any amount of trees there, it says you can plant a single tree, any amount of spaces away in a valid wind direction. So if it's west, valid wind directions are northwest, west, and southwest. Said any number of spaces. So literally this, even if I have no trees down here, I can just go boop. Because it's in a valid wind direction, and number of spaces away. Cool. Spring Waters. Take 2 trees from your bag into your hand to use in your turn. Straightforward. Take 2 from your bag to use on your turn. I assume the hand limit still stands. At the end of your turn, you can only have 5 trees in your hand. Traveling Roots. Plant a single tree 1 additional space away from an existing space of yours. Okay, so it sounds like it's very similar to the Fertile Breeze. Plant a single tree any number of spaces away in a single valid wind direction. This one is plant a single tree 1 additional space away from an existing space of yours. So this is not subject to wind direction. This is just saying general. So if I have a tree here, I can plant it 1 additional space away from an existing space of yours. So does that mean here? Or, like, could I do, is that what it's saying I could do? All right, let's look that one up. Let's see. Traveling Roots. So during the plant tree step of your turn, plant a single one of your trees 2 spaces away from a space you control. You still must follow the valid wind direction based on the wind die. You may follow 2 different valid wind directions to plant your tree. You may also go through the opponent's space when making this. So that's a little bit how it's different too. So if the opponent had a tree here, I could plant this there, being a valid wind direction. So there's specificity for breeze. So there's a distinction, and there's a difference as well. Got it. So you can go. Okay. So for the Fertile Breeze, you can also go through opponents' trees, right? So you could still go like this for Fertile Breeze, go through opponents' trees. What you can't do is you can't turn. Where with the Traveling Roots, you could turn as long as it's still part of that valid wind direction. So Fertile Breeze is blowing you that way. The roots are traveling for this one. Okay. New Growth. Plant a single tree on any open space. That's like literally anywhere on the board. Just plant a tree. Drought and Stone. Place 2 drought tiles on any empty spaces. Those spaces are now unplayable. That's cool. So if green, let's say, was going for that lockdown, I guess that would help them. But it could interrupt them in some way, I guess. So if they're doing the lockdown, you could put this over here to give them 2 less points potentially, or just to help block them from, maybe if you're trying to stop them from being able to get adjacent to a tile, like if they were going like this, and they're like, oh cool, I'm gonna go with the rest, like going the trifecta going around. You can do that. Obviously, you can put them in the same spot. So I'm not really sure how Drought and Stone would really affect anything. Let's see if it gives us some clarification in here. So placing those 2 down in any empty space in the board, they're now unplayable. You can place tiles on any empty space, meaning the 2 tiles do not need to be adjacent. Because the spaces with the drought tiles are permanently unplayable, they are considered boundaries and can be used to create cascades. So I guess that would more likely would help you out when trying to create a cascade. So if Pine's trying to create the cascade and they only have 1 to put down, they could play their drought to do this. And then be like, all right, cascaded, because no one can place there. So I guess it's more of an offensive maneuver than a defensive, really. Okay. Next we have the wind. Set the direction of the wind to any value on your turn. So it's straight up, you just pick up to go. I want this to be northwest. And the sun. Set the sun to any value on your turn. So same deal. I don't have a large amount of trees, or I'm the only one with a large amount of trees. I'm gonna go for the 5. Cool. Easy peasy. Another Very simple expansion. So very quick to get through, very easy to understand. You could definitely mix this one with the Majestic Marvels. I feel like it'd be a very interesting combination. They both play with the base version of the game, so there's not really going to throw much off there. Cool. All right. Let's get this one picked up, and we'll go on to the next one. Get you in there. Boom. And boom. Okay, let's get you cleaned. All right. Next up is Wild Weather. This one looks like a lot of fun too. So far, both the expansions can be paired together. Sometimes expansions don't really work in tandem very well. One of the other games that we have where the expansions worked really well with the base and then with each other was Stupor Monday. That was great. Okay, so rulebook. We got some dice in here. Ooh. Got a bunch of punch-out stuff. I'll put off to the side for now. Keep it in the box. We have our weather cards here. I think there's a die for each weather card, if I remember correctly. There is. So we'll keep those off to the side for now. I love the artwork on these. This stuff is just absolutely gorgeous. Hauntingly so. Okay. Wild Weather, a little bit thicker than the other one. Here we go. In the Wild Weather expansion, each player will choose 2 dice-based powers at the very start of the game. These powerful weather effects have the ability to modify the board as well as grant you valuable resources and unique abilities. They allow you to do things like gain extra trees, remove trees from the board, block spaces, and break the typical planting rules to pull off big moves. Time them strategically, and look out for clever combos and counters between the abilities to set up and pull off an epic move that may just change the course of the game. And be sure to look for different ways to use each weather effect, as all the abilities can be used in multiple distinct ways to achieve different strategic goals. All right, scoring and objective. Your objective is the same as in the base game, and the game is played and scored in the same way. The player who controls the most forest spaces at the end wins. All base game rules apply, unchanged, unless specifically overridden or modified by one of the abilities covered in the rules of this expansion. For setup, set up the game board and water tiles the same way you would in the standard game, following the steps in the base game rulebook. Then, before seeding your initial forests, as part of the base game setup, complete the expansion setup shown on the following pages. Done. All right. Setup weather effects. So lay out all 6 of the weather effect boards, as well as the tracks for mudslide torrential rain. Okay? So we got these laid out. So we're gonna pull out for this one then. I'm gonna push this up actually. I'm gonna put them right here because that's what we're talking about right now. So let's get you over here. So we're gonna lay all these out. Where we at? Let's make sure we have the ones that are gonna have tiles on the edges. There we go. Go a little bit higher here and a little bit higher here. There we are. So obviously these will just be on the board anywhere that's best for you all playing. I'm doing this because it's easier, hey, for y'all to see. So I'm actually going to scoot this down then. because I got space to do so. We actually put the board right back where it was, I think. That is magnificent. I love planning ahead for things I didn't know I was doing. All right, so now we need the mudslide tracker and the torrential rain tracker. Boom. Done and done. Okay, next. Roll all 6 of the weather effect dice and set each one on its place on the corresponding weather effect board. These values will remain for the entire game. Be sure not to change them. So we have all of our dice. We'll roll them all. Okay, so they go on their corresponding boards, matching color to color. Okay. Dun, 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 dun. All right. For Mudslide and Sunbeam, place all the related marker tiles next to their boards. Okay. So we have this big box of tiles. So I'm just going to sort these out right now. So it says for Mudslide and Sunbeam, they get all of their tiles. So I'm going to go right here. Those are all Mudslide's tiles right there. Sunbeam. Of its tiles, and we got the rain. Cool. So Sunbeam, looks like it has numbers here. So 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Sure, do it like that. Okay. Sunbeam is right here, so put those right there. Okay. For torrential rain and cold snap effects, take the number of corresponding marker tiles equal to the value rolled on their corresponding die and place them next to their boards. So for torrential rain, it's 3. So not 4, just 3. So boom, got that. And for cold snap, we got 4. So we got your 4, and place you just right there. Okay. Cool. Choose weather effects. Taking turns, starting with the first player, each player chooses 1 weather effect, taking all of its related components until both players each have 2 in their play area. All right. Place the 2 remaining unchosen weather effects and all their components back in the game box. They will not be used during this game. So we'll say that player 1 takes Mudslide, and they are the Aspen, or the Pine crew. So they are taking Mudslide. So that means player 2 is like, all right, well fine. Now I'm going to take Torrential Rain. Okay. We're going to do Sunbeam for the other one, here for player 1, and then player 2 is going to take Tornado. Awesome. I will go over what Cold Snap and stuff do as well. I'm going to put them off to the side for now, though, just to continue to illustrate setup as we go. So, there we are. It does give you a beginner's note. It says, in your first game, we suggest that you play with only Tornado, Cold Snap, Gusting Winds, and Torrential Rain, as they are the easiest to get started with. Of course, never obey those rules. All right. Once you have each drafted your 2 weather effects and return the remaining ones to the box, resume getting started by seeding and growing your initial force on the board like you typically do. Once that's done, the setup is complete, and you're ready to start the game. The board should look exactly as it does in normal setup. In addition, both players should have their 2 chosen weather effects in front of them with the related components as well as the player aid. So player raids, they got 2 of these right here. Boom, boom. Overview of the weather powers. So for Tornado, remove trees belonging to either player from the board, replanting yours immediately and returning your opponents to them. Cool. We have Cold Snap. Freeze spaces, making them unplayable for several turns. Torrential Rain. Gain extra trees for several turns by flooding spaces adjacent to your opponent's trees. Gusting Winds. Plant your trees farther away on one of your turns based on the strength of the gusting wind. So it's like one of the god powers. That's cool. Sunbeam. Both players get increasing chances of extra trees for each space they control adjacent to the sunbeam. And Mudslide. Sacrifice your own trees to carve paths through empty or occupied spaces, ignoring the wind, to reach new territory and even destroy your opponent's trees. Interesting. Playing powers. Each weather effect has a power. All the powers are single use per game. Many of them have multiple elements that you may use, effects that last multiple turns, or resources that can be used throughout the game. But after an effect has been completely used once, it is discarded for the rest of the game. You can activate your powers at any time during any of your turns after the roll for Wind and Sun step, as long as you follow the rules of the power. This includes using both of your powers on the same turn. Activating a power does not count as your turn, and you can still carry out all the steps of your turn as normal. So unlike the god powers, which you can use at any time on your turn, before the sun roll, after, whenever, as long as it's on your turn, these weather powers can only be used after the wind and sun roll. But you can use both of them at the same time. And again, it's used once until it's used up, and then it's out. So now we're going to go into the effects of the different powers. So starting with Tornado. So the overview. Remove trees belonging to either player from the board, replanting yours immediately on your turn and returning your opponents to them. This allows you to clear blockades, relocating your trees to change your strategy, or gather added trees to pull off your own big move. So how it works. The value of the tornado die, here's a 6, determines the strength of the tornado, which is how many trees you'll be able to remove from the board, determined in the setup phase. So we rolled a 6, yep. So when you activate the power, remove up to this many trees from the board belonging to either player, returning them to their owner's hand. Any trees of yours that you removed, you get to immediately plant as you normally would in the same turn. Any of your opponent's trees that you removed are returned to them and held by your opponent until their next turn, when they can plant them as normal. You cannot remove trees from spaces adjacent to a water tile. Discard this ability at the end of your turn after using it. Okay, let me just see here. It gives an example. I'll do an example here in a moment. Okay, so let's go to the board. We'll get our main trees down next to the water tiles to start. All right, so Aspens has Tornado. Now let's get some other trees down so we can illustrate this clearly. Sure. That works for me. All right. So it says, remove up to as many trees as the die says belong to either player from the board. So anywhere. And then such you get to replant them. So playing a tornado would allow me, so like if I'm looking at, let's see, I set these up random, so there's no clear thing, but like here, right, they're really extending themselves, right? So you can never remove trees that are adjacent to water. Those next to water cannot be removed. So I can remove 6 total trees to, in turn, replant them as I normally would on my turn. And so again, this is after these have already been rolled. Okay. So I'm gonna, as Aspen, I'm gonna have 1 tree already. I rolled a 6, so I wouldn't have anything additional. So I'm like, you know what? I want to move my trees around. So I'm gonna use my tornado. I can get rid of 6 trees and move stuff around here. So what I'm gonna do is do 1, 2, 3. This will go back to the pine player's hand for them to plant on their turn. And I'm going to do 1, 2, and 3 here. And now I can place all mine down like normal. And here, I did that because now, oh, well, it's northeast. We'll say that this was a northwest roll because you still have to abide by the wind direction. So northwest means I can do northeast or west, so that's why I did this little route around him. And boom. So I did that because now I've locked in those trees. He can't move from that spot anymore. So that is a strategic way to use Tornado to like close off someone from that location. So now he can only build out from those areas on his turn. It's going to be really easy for me to lock down this whole western hemisphere. Okay, so let's go back down here. Now we have Cold Snap. So nobody has Cold Snap specifically, but we will go over it as if it was based on the setup here with the 4. All right. So, overview of Cold Snap. Free spaces, making them unplayable for several turns. This allows you to create pivotal blockages or slow down your opponent to gain a strategic advantage. How it works. The value of the Cold Snap die determines the strength of the Cold Snap. This is how many frost tiles you get, determined in setup phase. So we rolled a 4, so we have 4 tiles. 1, 2, 3, 4. On any of your turns throughout the game, any of them, the tornado was just activating the power whenever. Okay. So on any of your turns throughout the game, you may place any number of your unused frost tiles on an empty space. This space cannot be adjacent to a starting water tile. Make sure to place them in the frozen side up, which is this side, right there. Spaces with frost on them are unplayable until the frost fully melts and the tile is removed. Okay, so how does the frost melt? There we go. I think adjacent to any of your trees? Nope, on empty space. So it can go anywhere on the board, just not next to a water tile. So anywhere on the board. So we'll say, and you can place any number of them. So we're going to go here and there for the hell of it, right now. Okay? When you have frost tiles on the board, at the start of each of your turns, all of your previously played frost tiles melts one step further until fully melted and removed. Tiles in the frozen state flip over to melting side, and melting are removed from the game. Each frost tile can only be used once. Once fully melted and removed from the board, discard the frost tile. Once you have used and discarded all your frost tiles, discard the power. Oh, all right, straight up, easy peasy. Yeah, spaces with frost on them are unplayable until the frost fully melts and the tile is removed. Does not say anything about them being used to Cascade. Does it have clarification in the back? Edge cases. That's mudslide specifically. Yeah. I assume If it's an unplayable space, I don't know. It doesn't say you can use this to Cascade. It makes the spaces unplayable for several turns. But because it's not unplayable the rest of the game, I assume it doesn't count. Yeah, because it's going to function like the tokens in the ancient artifacts. So these would not count as unplayable spaces. So this is where it'd be a good idea to slow down your opponent if they're going first. Like if green had this, right? And we'll say Aspen was 2 spaces away from closing this off and making it completely, we'll do, yeah, I guess it doesn't really make a huge, I guess you can use all 4. So if green used all 4 to slow them down, like, okay, you know what? I need to keep you, it can't go next to water, from being able to lock this out. So this line of frost could stop them from getting the cascade of this here and give green potentially the chance to get enough trees down on this side to prevent the blockage. So that's the time when that could really be helpful. All right. And then when the turn comes back around to Pine's turn, these would all flip on the board to the melting side, go through the turns, and when it comes back to Pine's turn again, then they would all get removed because it's fully melted. Cool. Cold snap, easy enough. All right. Torrential rain. You got rid of it. So gain extra trees for several turns when you flood spaces adjacent to your opponent's trees. Place your flood strategically to maximize the amount of trees you gain. Here's how it works. The value of the torrential rain die determines the rain strength. This is how many flood tiles you get to place, determined during the setup phase. Okay, so we got 3. You have 3 tiles. So place the rain die on the starting space of the tracker. Okay? The rain's lifetime, number of turns it lasts, always starts at 2. Okay? Place each of your flood tiles on any empty space on the game board. This space cannot be adjacent to a starting water tile. You must place all your flood tiles at once. Spaces with flood tiles are considered valid playable spaces, meaning players can plant trees on them. Interesting. Gives an example. The rain die is a 3. Aspen player has 3 flood tiles to use on their turn. They place all of their flood tiles on spaces adjacent to their opponent's territory, hoping the Pine player will expand on or around them to increase the number of trees they get. Interesting. Okay, so let's just continue here. So I still don't quite understand what it's used for. At the start of your turn, gain 1 tree for each space controlled by your opponent that is adjacent to a flood tile. If a space is adjacent to multiple flood tiles, it is still only counts as a single space, and thus you only get 1 bonus tree. Okay, so we'll start with that. Go to the board. Okay, we have the 3. This is the Aspen player again, we'll say. So Aspen knows this is really the only area that you can expand from. So we're going to go like this. Here? Nope, can't go next to the water. Each of your opponent's trees, so guess there. And you have to put all 3 down at once, so something like that. Okay, so now the start of Aspen's turn again. You're going to gain 1 tree for each space controlled by your opponent that is adjacent to a flood tile. For each space controlled by opponent. Oh, okay, so no, we would want to do this then. Okay, so that means here, each space next to a flood tile, so 1, and then there is 2. You notice adjacent to 2 tiles, it only counts as the 1 space next to them, so 1, 2, 3, 4. So Aspen would get 4 trees right away, on top of the 1, obviously, they would normally get for the start of their turn. Okay? Decrease the lifetime of the flood by 1 on the tracker by moving the die 1 space to the left. So this die would go down 1 space. After 2 of your turns, when the die reaches the final space marked, remove, the rain stops, and the flood dries up. When the flood dries up, remove all flood tiles from the board and discard the power along with all of its components. Okay, and it just gives examples. All right, so very similar to the frost, but you have a tracker here instead of the token flipping in any kind of way. So you would get your trees each turn. So there's 2 turns where you're going to be getting extra trees based on where those trees are located next to the flood. So if pine continued to build out, because there's no place they can, if they continue to build out around this flood for whatever reason, then at the start of your next turn, now you would end up having, you get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 trees, plus your normal one to start. So you'd be starting your turn with 7 total trees, which is awesome. Then this guy would tick down to the last spot, and all of the flood tiles would be removed from the board. So torrential rain is a great way to get trees. All right, so now we have gusting winds, and we'll use the same 3 we rolled initially. Okay, so the overview for gusting winds. Plant your trees farther away based on the strength of the wind gust for a single turn. This enables you to reach new areas quickly or even jump over blockades of your opponent's trees to expand into areas you have been cut off from. Here's how it works. The value of the gusting winds determines the wind gust strength. So here it's 3. When playing new trees, this is the number of spaces away you can plant from your existing space. So when you activate the power, on your turn, when planting trees, you may plant any of your trees up to a number of spaces away defined by the wind gust strength. For example, if gust strength is 3, like ours, you can plant 3 spaces away from your existing spaces. All other planting rules must still be followed, so planting must still follow the valid wind directions, and you must plant outward starting from the space you control. You may, however, use multiple wind directions when planting a single tree. Discard this power at the end of your turn after using it. Gives examples after example. Let me make sure that I understand that. So, yes, boom, easy. Yep. Boop, 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 boop. Okay. Oh, cool. Okay. So this one's actually cool. This one's definitely better than the God Power, because the God Power from the ancient artifacts that you plants 1 tree, right? So we'll say that pine has this one, because Aspen's been getting all the fun. Let's go to the board. So our power is 3. We'll say pine has 4 trees to plant. So pine is trapped right there. So pine can plant up to 3 spaces away. So pine is going to stop these guys from being able to close this section off entirely. So pine, we'll say the wind direction was southwest that was rolled. Okay? So, using the gusting wind, can travel 3 spaces. and plan as we go. So southwest means we go southwest, west, and southeast. So pine is going to go to the southwest direction, 1, 2. So you can skip over the other tree. It's going to put 1 there, 1 there, and 1 right there, effectively stopping Aspen from being able to lock out that area. So the gusting wind allowed pine to get out of this position where they were stuck. Aspen thought they were being smart with their tornado, locking it in. Luckily, pine player chose gusting wind at the beginning of the game, was able to jump that fence of trees and lock out that area, and now pine is the one that's going to be working to close this down to snag all that. That's cool. Ooh, not 3, 2. All right. Now, Sunbeam. All right. So the overview of a Sunbeam. Both players get increased chances of extra trees for each space they control adjacent to the Sunbeam. The more spaces you control surrounding the Sunbeam, the better. So plan and place it strategically to maximize your advantage. Here's how it works. When you first activate the power, the value of the Sunbeam die is the strength the Sunbeam starts at. So if we have a 4, that means the strength starts at 4. Take the Sunbeam tile that is the same value as the die and place it on any empty space on the board. Now, every time the sun die is rolled by either player, first check to see if the Sunbeam produces extra trees. Both players get 1 tree for each adjacent space they control when the sun die roll is less than or equal to the Sunbeam strength. Okay, the current number on the stack. Okay, makes sense. If the sun die value rolled is greater than the Sunbeam's current strength, no extra trees are produced by the Sunbeam for any player. All right. So let's do that first. Okay. So pine has this as well. So pine, being very smart, it's like I don't want this to go next to Aspen. I want them to benefit from it. So I'm going to put it entirely next to mine. So where can I maximize this? So they're going to put it right there, completely surrounded by their trees. It's a 4, so now it's saying first up, that gets placed, then this is rolled. If this is equal to or less than that number, they're going to get trees first equal to however many spaces are adjacent to that Sunbeam. So 1, 2, 3. So immediately, 1, 2, 3 trees for the Sunbeam. Then obviously they would have their bonus 1 for it being their turn, potentially. But if it wasn't their turn, we'll say if this was Aspen that rolled the 3, and that was already down, pine would still get those 3 trees. Okay. Secondly, after each roll of the sun die, add the next tile to the Sunbeam stack, increasing the strength by 1. Tiles are always added in increasing order, so 2 to 3, 3 to 4, 4 to 5, 5 to 6. When you go to add another tile to the Sunbeam step, and there are no higher values remaining, the Sunbeam has reached its maximum strength and faded. Remove the Sunbeam stack entirely from the board and discard this power. Ah, interesting. So it's actually better if you roll lower with the Sunbeam at the beginning than higher. So because we start at 4, we're only getting 3 turns with it once it gets put down. You have the 4, then it'll go up to 5, you do your turn, get your trees, yada yada. Then you go up to 6. So it gets progressively easier to get more trees, but if you rolled a 6 at the very beginning, then that Sunbeam is literally starting right there. That's insane. Crazy. Cool. All right. So now, and lastly, we have the mudslide. The mudslide spread across the board through empty spaces in your opponent's territory, ignoring the wind to reach new areas and even destroy your opponent's trees along the way. but beware. You'll have to sacrifice your own trees to make these to make these powerful moves. How it works. The value on the mudslide die determines the lifetime of the mudslide, which is how long it will stay active. So similar to the torrential rain. Okay, so that's 3. So it looks like there's only 1, 2s, and 3s on here. We happen to roll the highest number. Cool. So 3. So place the mudslide die in the space of the tracker that has the same value. So 3 for 3. Place a mudslide tile on any space adjacent to one you control that is either empty or controlled by your opponent. The wind is not used when placing mudslide tiles. You can place them in any direction. You cannot place the tile adjacent to a starting water tile. And B, lay one of your trees from your hand on the tile. If you place a mudslide tile on a space controlled by your opponent, lay their trees back on top of the tile with yours. Okay, so place a mudslide tile on a space adjacent to, let's go over here, to one you control that is either empty or controlled by your opponent. So we'll call this an aspen one. Even though pine has it, we'll call this an aspen. So let's go. So it says either empty or controlled by your opponent. So we'll go controlled by opponent. We'll go right here. It can't go next to a starting water tile. Okay. Now lay one of your trees from our hand. So I have one in my hand. On the tile. Okay. If you place the mudslide tile in a space controlled by your opponent, lay their trees back on top of the tile with yours. So this would also, their trees would also go on here with mine. Okay. While a mudslide is active, on any of your turns, including the turn you started it, you may extend the mudslide by placing additional connected tiles to extend the mudslide. To extend a mudslide. So place mudslide tiles on a space adjacent to any other mudslide tile. This space must be empty or controlled by your opponent. You do not have to follow the wind when placing the tiles. The space cannot be adjacent to starting water tile. The space cannot have a weather effect marker tile already on it. So for instance, the cold snap or the sunbeam or the water. Lay one of your trees from your hand on the mudslide tile. You must be able to place a tree on the tile to place it. So if you don't have a tree in your hand, you can't place the mudslide tile. So we'll say I have one. We will place another one. We'll go right here. Okay. And then it looks like these will probably get laid just like before. You can extend the mudslide as far and in any direction you want as long as you follow the above rules and have mudslide tiles remaining. Once you place all the tiles, you cannot extend it any further. Okay. It looks like we'd be reducing the marker here at the start of each of our turns. So down to 2. We're placing all now for our second one. So we'll say we're just going to continue placing. We'll say we put down multiple here. Okay. And then we'll say another turn goes by. Oh, but started my turn here. So that's a 1. Plant some more. I don't know exactly what this is doing, so just continuing on. We'll say that's good, okay? Then it'll be down to remove the next turn. So planting outward from the mudslide. Mudslide spaces with your tree on them are considered yours. This means you can plant adjacent to these spaces following the normal placement rules of the plant phase on your turn. Mudslide spaces with both players' trees on them are considered controlled by both players. This means either player can plant normally adjacent to them. When planting outward from a mudslide, you must follow the current valid wind direction and all normal planting rules of your turn. So Oh. But didn't that have to go next to one of your spaces, though? Right? So what is the point here? Because you have to put the mudslide next to one of your spaces to begin with anyway, and to put a tree onto there anyway. How's that different than just putting... Oh, I guess because it allows you to go through your opponent's area. It's like I wouldn't have been able to extend it this way with their trees in the way. Okay. So now what that's saying is these serve as your trees as well. So like you can plant following valid wind directions in here, right? So we'll say I did this. Or normally I wouldn't have been able to do this because they were in the way. Okay. So now, so while the mudslide is active, so the start of each of your turns before taking any actions, decrease the mudslide lifetime by 1 on the tracker. That's what you just saw me doing. You do not do this on the turn of your first activation of the mudslide. When the die reaches its final space, the mudslide dries up. When the mudslide dries up, remove all trees from each of the spaces with a mudslide tile, returning them to their respective owners' bags. These spaces are now owned by neither player, since they have no remaining trees on them. So you remove all mudslide tiles from the board and discard the power, resolve any cascades, etc. Okay, there's an edge case we'll go over in a moment. So it's on the board, good. So when it dries up, like it has, so anything that's on the mudslide tile gets, does it go back to the person to plant or just removed? It says it goes right back to the owner's bags. So mudslides can be a good way to just destroy your opponent's trees, like I just did there. But it's also a good way to get around your opponent as well. So over here, there could have been a way that the Aspens could have taken this back. They could have gone right back through here, and that would have allowed them. So actually, you know what? Let's actually do that over there, because that'll be a fun thing. We'll leave this as it is here. So we'll say instead, Aspen did it here. They put this tile here, right? Boom. We won't use those. And then they put a tree on it that they would have had in their hand. And we'll say they did it here as well. No, that wouldn't make sense. That one. They would have done it here. And so you get both trees down. And we'll say they did it here also. Another tree there. And on their turn, when they were planting, they were able to plant. Oh, actually, I guess we would have to do this one too. So we got rid of this one also. Boom, boom. That's what I was doing. So you remove all those. So you have a bunch of mudslide tiles. So that they're able to plant then next to each of those, right? So that's what we have right now. So mudslides are down. When it dries up, all of these are removed, right? So bag goes back to their bag, my bag, Aspen, pine, pine, Aspen. Tiles come off, and now, because it's locked down, Aspen just managed to counter what Pine did before, and the Cascade fills in this entire... well, this would have been an illegal one. You can't put it next to a water, so if they didn't have a tree there, this would have been legal. So this isn't entirely accurate. So if that was not a tree that was there to begin with them, then this would be fine. So we'll imagine that's the case, because that is crazy. But that's a good way to ensure that that can happen. Make sure you always put a tree next to a water tile. That way they can't take that. Cool. So the edge case. Spaces with mudslide tiles are considered temporarily under control because all these trees on them are removed when the mudslide dries up. This means mudslide spaces are not considered boundaries, and thus you cannot create cascades using them. So what that means is when the tiles are on the board, they're not cascades. You have to wait till you remove them like I just did to have the cascade created. If the game ends with a mudslide still active, resolve the mudslide immediately by removing it and all players' trees on those spaces before determining the winner. Neither player controls those spaces now, and thus neither player gets to count them towards their endgame score. In a rare case, resolving a mudslide can actually create a cascade, like we just went over. Always evaluate the board state after resolving a mudslide. If the conditions for a cascade exist, then the cascade is created, and the surrounding area gets filled in by the corresponding player according to the rules in the base game. This can happen during or even after the game has ended, as described above, when the game ends with a mudslide still active. Cool. The mudslide, so all these feel really powerful, which is great, and in their own ways, and they all can kind of counter each other, which is really nice. None of them feel specifically more powerful than the other. Mudslide maybe, but you have to be able to use it in a very specific, strategic way. And unfortunately, while their trees were on those mudslides, pine could have continued to plant more by it, so that way it would block me from creating that cascade maneuver at the very end. Okay, so let's clean this up. We got one more expansion to go through, and that is the Deciduous Duos expansion. So I'm gonna go back to the board while I pack all of this away. So far, each expansion's felt very different. Like this one felt similar to the God's Powers, but the God's Powers are definitely simpler. They don't take as much strategy to really determine or use. I don't think we honestly need this for these dice. It's fine. He gave it to us. Nice bag. We'll use it. Oh, missed one. Go. So you're looking for a more simpler version of the winter thing here. You can use the relic expansion, and it gives you similar abilities in different, much more simple ways, which is nice. Oops. Get in there, please. Oh, I forgot the reference cards. It does come with handy reference cards, which is nice with all the abilities and stuff on them. And when you can use them, always a plus. It always amazes me when games that are bigger than this don't come with good reference cards like these do. It's like these are smaller games and they still manage to do it. All right, everybody. Here we go. The final. Deciduous Duos. I think I'm saying that right. Deciduous? Deciduous? Come on. So this, I believe, creates a team dynamic for the game. So I assume it's going to make the board bigger, which we'll find out in a moment. The rulebook is not thick, so it doesn't add many rules, which is nice. You have 2 more trees. You have blue and red. And more tiles. Here we go. Deciduous Duos. In the Deciduous Duos expansion, 4 players will expand the board and team up in pairs as they face off and work together to grow the largest, most stunning forest on an epic scale. A key mechanical twist will allow you to decide between planting your own trees and when to make a trade-off to plant as your partner. In Aspens versus Evergreens, it's Aspens versus Evergreens, and may the best duo win. All right. So you have some red aspen trees, some blue pine trees, so blue spruces we're going to call those, your cloth bags. You have 14 more board pieces. So scoring of the objective is the same as the base game, and the game is generally played and scored in the same way, just in teams instead of one-on-one. The team who controls the most space at the end wins. So all base game rules apply, unchanged, unless specifically overridden or modified by the rules defined in the expansion. Okay, divide into teams. So divide into 2 teams, 2 players each. One team will play as the aspen trees. Each player from that team takes a set of aspen pieces, 1 set from the base game and 1 including this expansion. So, oops, 1 of these yellows and 1 of these reds. The other team plays the pines. So you got your greens and your blues. Important, you have to sit across from your partner so that the team alternates between players as you go around the table. So like it shows here. So pines and pines are together, aspens, aspens. So player 1 and player 3 are aspen, player 2 and player 4 are pines. I'm going for you. We're doing this. Boom. Just like that. Okay? All right. So that's going through. Set up the expanded game board. Okay, let's do it. Get that stuff out of the way. So I'm definitely have to pull out for this, so I'm going to do that now. Let's get our trees out of the way. Our aspens. Close them so I don't dump them on the table again. Okay, so I'm going to disassemble most of this. Ah, interesting. So you're reusing those. Cool. Okay. All right. So we still have our middle piece here. Cool. Now we need the pieces from this box. There isn't anything on these that specifically determines their shape, so you have to just kind of reference the rule. Or their shape, yes, but which they belong to. That you kind of reference the rule book when it's telling you to put them down as to what you're putting where. So. Will these fit properly? Yep, there you go. Boom. And boom. Okay. Now, 2 more expansion pieces. This board's going to be way bigger. These guys, I believe. This. Okay. Then our normal northwest, or northeast, southwest, southeast, yada yada. Down and down. So that is as tall as it's going to be now. We got to really come out now. Damn. Fun. Okay. Now we have some smaller guys here. What's nice is it's not difficult to discern what goes where specifically, which is good. As I say that, I'm tripping myself up. There we go. Like the borders on there is just good, and you have like that space which is consistent. There we go. See, that one's fine. Boom. It's like a puzzle. So then we have more newbies. We got these guys. Just going there. Going there. There. Nope. There we go. Cool. Cool. Okay. And then we got little ones in the middle. Like that. And then this. Boom. And this. Boom. Bam. All right. There we are. All right. Our medium view still holds it. Which is right at the edge here. So on this one, the 4 is off on the bottom, on the edges. So it definitely expands it outward a good amount, which is fine. It looks like there's 2 pieces that aren't used from the base. So these middle guys. Just off to the side. Okay. Big board. Cool. But very good instructions on how to put together. Step by step, piece by piece. It doesn't just show it to you with an outline. they're telling you what order to put them in, which is very smart on their part. Okay, so finish the standard setup. So place the 4 water tiles as shown. So they're showing them here. So same spots on the east and west areas. So that seems like it's very consistent, which is nice. Where's the other one? There we go. And then these guys, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Interesting. So you're on right there. Yep. So from the middle, you count 3 in. 1, 2, 3. That's where it's going. Okay, so from here, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay. Then seed your initial forest. So following the base game rules, starting with the first player and continuing in clockwise order until all players have placed each of their 3 starting trees next to a water tile. Unlike in the base game, a player may place more than one of their trees adjacent to the same water tile, though it is typically best to spread them out. This means that every player will have 1 or more water tiles with no trees next to it. There's a special rule for B, which is pinching. So when seeding your initial forest, you cannot surround a player from the opposing team between 2 of your team's trees. We call this pinching. You may, however, opt to pinch yourself by placing one of your starting trees between 2 opponents. Just do so knowing there is an increased risk that you'll get cut off from the rest of the board. And C, finally grow your initial forest following the process outlined in the base game rules until each player has taken a turn to allocate their 4 additional trees among the starting spaces. Okay. So the only changes that you have to set up are these. Let's get 3, 3, and 3 of each of these trees out. We can illustrate this setup. 2, 3. Come on, yo. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so placing your trees out. Obviously, you go around one at a time and place them. So we'll do that. Sure, we'll do it. So pine. I'll do aspen. Another pine guy. Aspen. We're gonna go pine. Aspen. Pine. How do I want to set this up here? Yeah. Pine. Or sorry, aspen, whatever. The other pine. Is that right? No, that's not right. This one. There we go. Aspen. Go pine, and we'll go aspen. Okay, so what they were talking about when it came to pinching, so there's a bug on the table, there we go. When they're talking about pinching, okay, so what you can't do, can we go in close on this here? Yeah, move this a little bit. There we go, all right. So say this isn't here, and now there's that one. So what you can't do, so there's these 2 here, 2 different teams. You cannot put your piece here, pinching an opposing team player like this, because the likelihood of them getting blocked off is very simple. That goes for your teammate's piece, or if you had your own piece. Cannot do that. What you can do, as you see here, I have 2 greens, is you can place your own piece between 2 trees if you really want to. which would create the pinching, but because you chose to go there, you're allowed to do that. The other thing that's different is, as you can see here and here, is you can have more than one of your trees next to the same watering hole. You do not have to place one at a different one in each space. Or in the base game, you can't have more than one next to the same water. And then you place out your other 4 with all your other trees and stuff, just like you would in the main game. So, not gonna worry about that right now. Okay, so taking a turn, roll for wind and sun, just like normal. So just like the base game, at the start of each player's turn, they will always run the sun and wind dice to determine the strength of the sun and the wind direction. Okay. On their turn, gain your trees. So this step works slightly differently than the base game. The way trees are produced is exactly the same. Quick reminder, you get 1 tree for each space you control that has at least the same number of trees as the sun value. And the active player always gets 1 additional tree as a bonus on their turn. Okay. The difference is all players do not generate trees on their turns, like in the base game. You only generate trees on your turn and the turn of the person to your left. This means you will gain trees and turn on your turn, and they will also gain trees and play after you take their turn. So instead of everybody gaining trees, right? So if we have Aspens, pull back out again. So we'll move these around here. We'll put these in the actual spaces for you. There we go. Okay. So if it's Aspen's turn, Aspen does their whole roll thing. We're just doing a random amount. Obviously it's not correct. So they would say they get 2 trees. Only the person to their left, so this pine player would get however many trees that they would get from the roll. These 2 do not. And then when it's this pine player's turn, they would roll, gain whatever trees they would get, and then the person to their left would gain whatever trees they would get, and so on and so forth. So when this Aspen's turn goes, they roll, they gain whatever trees, and then this pine player gains whatever trees. And then they go, they roll, they gain whatever their trees would be, and then this Aspen player would gain trees like in a 2-player game. So it still functions like the 2-player game. So the other player is the person to your left. Okay, planting trees. This step works the same as it does in the base game. The only current player allowed to plant trees on their turn. Yep. There is one added twist, but first we'll cover what works the same. Oh, right here, my mouth's getting a little dry. Almost done. So, what spaces are valid to plant on? When planting trees, all the rules from the base game about valid spaces to plant still apply. This means you plant adjacent to your own spaces following the wind directions. For the purposes of planting, your partner's spaces and trees are not considered yours. So the different colored aspens are not yours. So red aspens are not mine when it comes to planting next to. Per the base game rules, you must plant adjacent to a space you control, with one of your trees on it, following the valid wind direction. This means you cannot plant your trees adjacent to a space your partner controls as if that space were your own. So you can still plant next to a space your partner controls, but you can't use that space as if it was yours. This is illegal because not next to any yellow controlled space. This is legal because it's next to a yellow controlled space. Trading to plant your partner's trees. At any point on your turn, you may spend 2 of your trees from your hand to gain 1 tree of your partner's from their bag. Discard your 2 trees back to your own bag. You can exchange as many of your trees as you want on your turn as long as you have enough trees to make your trade. When planting your partner's trees that you got from the exchange, you plant them as if they were your partner's as if it were your partner's turn, following all the same rules as if they were planting their own trees. This means that you must plant adjacent to your partner's spaces, not your own. So, same example here. If I have 2 trees to plant, and I want to go over there, I can say, hey, give me one of your trees. I would put these 2 in my bag. Oops. I would then get one from their bag and plant it next to their own. So this, all legal moves. this, illegal, because it has to go next to theirs. Just like in the regular game. Color has to go next to the same color. Okay. Check for cascades. Just like in the base game, when you cut off an area of the board, such as that your opponent, in this case the other team, cannot reach it, you create a cascade. In this expansion, your team's trees are considered the boundary for a cascade, not just your own. Cool. So when you and or your team surround an area to create a cascade, your team immediately gets to fill that area in for free with trees from their bags. It does not matter from whose team you fill the spaces in the area. So that saying is, we'll continue to use this area over here. If red had all of that blocked off, and if I put my last 3 here, we cascade. This is blocked off due to the combination of our trees. So then we would just fill in all of these spaces with trees from our bag. The trees don't matter. Like in the base game, if you were to run out of trees, you can use a substitute, or you can start just taking trees out of here to plant elsewhere, because you'll know you have that blocked off. So you're fine. Cool. So in summary, like the base game, you'll always do these 4 steps in this order. After your turn, pass the dice to the player on your left, taking turns until the game is finished. Important reminder, sit across from your partners so the turns alternate between teams. You must plant your trees adjacent to your spaces, not your partners. You can trade trees 2 for 1 to plant one of your partner's trees, or multiple if you can afford it. Finishing and scoring. Just like in the base game, the game is over when there are no remaining empty spaces on the board. All playable spaces have been taken by a player. Count up how many spaces each player owns, add them to the scores of both players in the team. The team with the most spaces wins. If you want to be sure that you are counted correct, there are 271 playable spaces on the board, so all players' score combined should equal 271. Deciduous duos. Again, very easy expansion to add in. I am very curious how that would potentially play with the wild weather. The wild weather, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, there's 6 of these. So you could probably use wild weather with this, but each team gets 3 weather cards to use when they see fit. I think that would be a lot of fun. The artifacts I don't think would work as well with this just because of, like, you don't really know exactly where you would place them. Neither would the Majestic marbles. But weather paired with Deciduous duos, I think is going to be a really fun way to play this game. Cool. I say this a lot regarding games, and I think I'm right about, I think I'm increasing from 50% to probably about 75% of the time when I say that I think Bombastic would like this game. I think the theme she would like planting trees. It's pretty, which is always a plus for her. It is easy to learn, which is great. There aren't a lot of decisions, and it plays very quickly. So all those things add up to very nice. I think she'll enjoy the base a little bit more than the wild weather portion of it. But I definitely want to do the Deciduous duo thing, I think, paired with the wild weather, with board, and 2 other people who enjoy a good, more strategic style game. What did I just do to this? Oh, I'm pulling the wrong way. Is that what's happening right now? Fix it. What am I doing? Just completely messed this up. Oh, here we go. I grabbed the wrong side of this. What? What is happening? There we go. Cool. All right. Well, Deciduous duos. Let's get that out of there. The Aspens. OG. Got it away, guys, please. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Wild weather. Ancient artifacts. and Majestic marbles. Great. Thank you all for joining me for this rulebook rundown of everything that is Aspens. I'm excited to dive in. Hopefully you are. Definitely check out our playthrough whenever we get that up. To stay in touch and to know when that's going to be going up, definitely follow our Instagram. Go and subscribe over there. I post up every game that we're playing, when we're playing it, the times. The schedule is on there as well, pinned as a post, so you can see our typical schedule for when we're doing releases of games and stuff that comes in. Reels are going up there as well as here on YouTube for new games that come in. So give us a subscribe here. Go follow us on Instagram. Follow us on Twitch as well. We do live plays on Fridays and occasionally on Saturdays as well. We'd love to talk to you. So thank you for joining me here at Ludivore Games as I gave you this rulebook rundown again of everything Aspens. Base game, Deciduous duos, wild weather, ancient artifacts, the Majestic marvels. I'm bald. I'm going to stop talking now.